Welcome to another OCD Recovery YouTube video. I'm going to be talking a little bit today about structure, consistency, and the overall roller coaster ride that is the OCD recovery journey we know all too well. That bumpy roller coaster ride, which 1 minute you feel like you're back at square one, 1 minute you feel you've cracked it, and it goes like that all along the way. So let's start off with this part of the journey. Now, we've done a lot of videos talking about the recovery journey process because that's so key to understanding OCD recovery. If we just cover themes and different topics all the time, we miss so many of the subtle elements, the nuances of the journey, which are what derail us and make us feel like I'm never ever going to recover, I'm never going to get better. Okay? So let's start looking at some of the parts to do with the struggle. On this journey, you are going to feel lost. You are going to feel back at square one. You're going to feel like, I can't handle this anymore. You're going to feel worse than ever at points. You're going to feel better than ever at points. And you're going to feel that jumpy up and down, one moment this, 1 moment that, for quite a long time. Okay? And some of your best days are going to follow your worst days and vice versa. And you'll have a great stretch of a couple of months. I'm feeling great, and then bad. Maybe you haven't had a great stretch like that and just feel bad all the time. It's all part of it. That's all part of the journey. It doesn't matter if you've been stuck for 20 years. It doesn't matter if you've been stuck for 30 years, 5 years, 1 month. None of it matters. It's all the same principles working through the recovery journey, bit by bit, 1 day at a time, 1 hour at a time, often 1 second at a time, often when you're really stuck and you feel like you can't get out of this situation. Okay? Now, I've come to visit my parents, and that's why I'm in a different setting today in this stripy chair, as opposed to the normal video setup for the OCD recovery videos. And whenever I come and see my family, it reminds me often when I look at the location and the house, and I think, yes, I can remember walking here and having really bad OCD here and walking in the kitchen and thinking this and, that's that door that I punched a hole in when I was suffering with anger because of my OCD was so bad when I was like 19. I remember punching a hole in that kitchen door, and I remember all these things because you have so many different thoughts. You think, nobody understands this, no one's going to get this, why me? All that kind of stuff that we know all too well when we're going through OCD initially. And so all of those things, I can remember when I see that. I can remember those things. And it's key. It's like I did a video, I put a picture up on Instagram stories maybe about 2 years ago, I think it was, of me in a barber shop. And I just came from a barber just now. And when I was in the barber chair, I would always look at myself in the mirror and think, you last time you sat in this chair, you had terrible OCD and you've got it again for years, every time. Okay. And now when I get in there, I don't think anything like that. I talk to the guy and we talk about things, and there's never a thing like that because there is no chronic guilt, chronic anxiety state. And I never have setbacks that would last longer than really a few minutes at most, if they ever were to occur, until I'd gone through the beliefs. So realistically, when I get into the barber chair, there is nothing sensational like that. And I don't even think of, the lost years, because I accept that those years built where I am today. And so I just sit there like any other person. And I've got other things I'm thinking of to do with work and to do with life and these kinds of things. And I go through those things. And, life is got hurdles in all areas of life, okay? You might wake up tomorrow, you might fall off your bike, break your arm, and then you've got a hurdle of a broken arm, plus running your business, running your family, all the different things that you might have going on in your life. You might have COVID, you may be ill, and you may have got it the second time and be frustrated. Oh my God, I've got COVID again. If only I hadn't COVID, is so annoying. And all different things, hurdles that people face in normal life. Lost a job, broken up with their partner, health problems in their family, all kinds of things. But when you've got OCD as well, navigating all of that feels like going across a minefield, because it just wears you down so much more, or it makes the other things feel irrelevant to you. You're like, forget any of that stuff. I've got this terrible OCD situation that I'm dealing with right now. Everything else is meaningless. If I knew that thing from the past, then I'd be fine. Then life would be good and everything would be fine. But life don't work like that. Life doesn't have just one period of this would work out and then everything would be fine. Life has a series of difficult events. People who are successful in different areas that they are in is because they have navigated that minefield, and they they've overcome those obstacles and they've adjusted and adapted into the person who can overcome obstacles. A person who can't overcome obstacles doesn't get very far because life is made up of obstacles. So that is key to remember. And you have to remind yourself of that. And if you don't, then when you get faced with an obstacle, you think, oh, this shouldn't be here. I wish it wasn't here. Oh, poor me, this is terrible, da, da, da. And then that's not very helpful, okay? It takes us down a rabbit hole. So instead, if we wake up and go, I'm going to be faced with many obstacles and I'm going to do my best to navigate them and overcome them, then we've got an attitude of succeeding, okay? And that's key. Especially in the day and age we live today, where so many things are made out to be an obstacle, which aren't an obstacle, okay? You hear things like the word trauma thrown around left, right and centre all day long these days. And, oh, I've got a trauma because of this and I've got a trauma because of that. No, 99% of the time, that is not a trauma. It's a word that's commonly used, the same as the word narcissist you often hear used, where people describe someone they don't like as a narcissist. Realistically, there's not that many narcissists. But these things are used and overused in modern culture. And so we've got to be aware of that. We've got to build ourselves into someone who can overcome obstacles, put up with discomfort, put up with things like that, and adapt and adjust. Okay, as I've just put up with the fact that mosquitoes just bitten me on the hand whilst I'm holding this phone, recording this video. And I've accepted him, even though I do want to smack him. But I can't see where he's gone because he's gone somewhere else. Now, when you are thinking of all these things in your life, all these obstacles, anything, right? This is a moment to change and adapt your mindset so that you improve and are better at overcoming obstacles. Someone who succeeds a lot in lots of areas of their life tends to be excellent at overcoming obstacles, okay? So they're thinking every day, I've got to overcome as many obstacles as I can to get where I want to. So your goal is getting better at tolerating obstacles, adapting and improving, okay? OCD is one big damn obstacle and you've got to adjust and adapt so that it doesn't have the upper hand that it once did. So that all involves adjusting, adapting, adjusting, adapting. It doesn't involve sitting, complaining, focusing on why it's so bad, focusing on why you're the only person going through this if only that hadn't happened. That ain't going to help you. That's a dead end. I used to, in my head all the time, this is the worst thing ever. Nothing could be worse. Why? Only if I didn't have this. Got me nowhere. Zero return. Zero. In life, I'm looking for the second I'm complaining about anything, what's the solution? It is a zero return all the time. You'll see it in all your friends, you'll see it in family, you'll see it in everyone complaining because they don't make those changes. Look at people that you admire, mentors, people that are successful in the thing that you want to achieve or do or whatever in life. They don't tend to complain about things endlessly. They tend to look for solutions. And that is key, okay? That is key to life. When you catch yourself going down that rabbit hole of complaining, is it getting you where you want? There is so many of these things, so many of these areas of life that we do this. And we do this in other things like a magical thinking, I've forgotten the word now for it. Like sort of just things that are irrational and don't make sense, like jinxing things. We do things like we'll say, oh, I just hope that doesn't happen. I don't want to do that now because then what if that jinxes it? You don't hear of jinxing happening in a surgery. You don't hear like one surgeon going to another, yeah, okay, I think we should operate on his liver now. Oh no, maybe if we do that right now, maybe we should wait 10 minutes because we don't want to jinx the fact we just worked on the heart. That's not going to happen because it doesn't exist. You don't hear of that in reality, but we do that as human beings. We do that stuff, okay? So we've got to be really aware. Are we doing any of that kind of completely illogical, irrational thinking that's keeping us stuck? Are we doing stuff like that? Are we self-defeating ourselves with negative beliefs? Today, often when I'm very rational and talk about sort of things to help people and direct, you can often look at that and then think, so who was it the other day? Someone said to me, yeah, it's not as easy as just looking at something rationally and the problem will get solved. And of course, it's a very good question. It's not as easy as that. And just because I talk about it now, quite matter of fact, and that's very much the nature I do things in, because I feel that's the quickest way to get results and get things done. That doesn't mean for a second that I'm not coming from 100% compassion. I am, and I'm 100% behind you in the corner of the ring. But I've got to be direct because OCD, how it's dealt with and spoken about, is so wishy-washy for so long that nothing happens and no change happens because it's so wishy-washy. So we've got to be direct. We've got to make change. We've got to hold ourselves accountable. We've got to do these things. And I'm not saying that's easy, okay? And I will be direct about it, but I'm always behind you, right? But you've got to really think about it. If you want to make change, you're going to have to talk to yourself in a voice that's compassionate but wants results. That's not a drill sergeant coming down on you like a ton of bricks, but you can't just go along and say like, yeah, I'm still doing some compulsions. Well, that's where that conversation was the other day with a situation like that, where I was telling somebody, you can't keep doing compulsions month in, month out, small compulsions, and think that it's gonna improve, because it won't improve. It will not improve with small compulsions. It's the same as a drug addict saying, I just want to take some drugs, just a bit of weed 2 times a day, but nothing else. You can't do that. If you're addicted, you've got to stop all of that. And that's the same with OCD. You can't have compulsions. And there has to be a lot of tough love in it, the same as if someone was dealing with an eating disorder. There is a tough love about eating, compassion and support, but there has to be tough love there, right? And that is the same for OCD. And it's in the same as I had to be with me. I couldn't speak to myself like this. Oh, just, do a couple of compulsions. It's no problem. Oh, just spend the afternoon today. It's okay to spend half the day in bed and to complain about how bad OCD is and cry 3 or 4 times this afternoon. That's fine. No, let's highlight that, okay, and where that goes wrong. We have an idea today where we say, yes, it's good for men to cry and all these things and so on. Yes, it's good to experience feelings and not to bottle it up. I'm not talking about in compulsive not bottling it up, like OCD sufferers where they're constantly talking about their problems all the time to kind of get it out, which becomes a compulsion. I'm talking about, yes, it's good to talk, of course. Yes, it's good to talk about how we feel. Yes, it's fine to cry and feel emotional. Yes, that doesn't make you less than, right? But if you're compulsively crying or crying every day and constantly talking about, oh, OCD is so terrible, I want you to hear all about my OCD to your friends, to your family over and over, that ain't getting you anywhere. And in today's day and age, if you even say something like that, people think that that's too firm. That's not too firm. That's reality. The problem is doing the opposite, which then becomes the problem. If we have a culture which is completely focused on just expressing your feelings all the time, you don't get things done. You don't improve. We have to express feelings, of course. If you're feeling very upset or something's happened, talking about it, it's good, not compulsively. And the same with OCD. Of course it's difficult. Of course it's hard. But we can't sit there all day long saying, this is the worst, this is so terrible, poor me, because it doesn't get us anywhere. It doesn't fix the situation. It doesn't bring a solution. And that is so key to remember. Okay, so we want men to come forward. I'm talking about men here, and because that's the common one spoken about at the moment. But I'm saying we want men to speak out about feeling bad and talking about OCD, of course. But we don't want to encourage chronic crying. You sometimes see persons saying, let it all out all the time. If you're angry, let it out. No, because if you're doing that, it's compulsive. If I let out anger every time I was angry, I'd just be angry all the time, just screaming. It wouldn't work. You've got to diffuse the anger by breaking down the irrational beliefs. You can diffuse the crying by breaking down the irrational beliefs too. What are the irrational beliefs? It is so terrible, unbearable. This is so unfortunate for me. I am such a rare case. This is so sad. My life's been ruined. Of course it's going to make you cry if you're telling yourself that over and over and over. Whereas rationally, I can stand it. This is sad, but there are so many great things I can do and look forward to and adapt. As I've just adapted to managing to catch that mosquito just on the arm. I did have compassion, though, just then. I let him bite me for about 3 seconds before. Now, the thing with that is you've got to think in your life, right? You have got to think that when you are beating yourself up, when you're being rational, thinking of other people's situations. OCD is difficult, but you imagine having OCD and being in a wheelchair or being homeless and all this stuff. Now, it's not taking away. So people say often, oh, that's taking away from the emotion I'm feeling. No, it's not. I am still very aware that OCD is very difficult. I live with OCD, but we have to remember that other people go through things far worse. That's not taking away from it. It's showing perspective. I'm grateful. My arms move. My legs move, right? I'm grateful of all those things, okay? I'm grateful of all those things all the time, that I can breathe, I can talk, I can speak here. I'm grateful of all that. I'm very much grateful of that. I'm grateful this mosquito has just bitten me on the arm because I've got a bloody arm. So I am grateful for that too, okay? But I would prefer not to be bitten on the arm. I would prefer not to have had to be in, when I was suffering with OCD, the pain of it and the difficulty. Of course not. But I've learned from that and had a great experience, and that's learned to empowering my life and changing my life. So I am grateful for those things, those situations, those things that happen. And I can see how lucky I am to have all these other things, which calms it down from catastrophized, where I'm telling myself, oh, this is the worst thing ever. Nothing could be worse. Not true. Things could be far worse. So it's helping to calm things down rationally. Okay. I watched a great interview years ago. I was 21 years old. I was suffering from OCD so badly at the time. And I watched a video by Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning, a Holocaust survivor. Amazing, amazing book. And I was watching a video with him where he was interviewing a guy who was a patient of his that had dived into a swimming pool and broken his neck and been paralyzed from the neck down. Viktor Frankl said, how do you feel, or something thereabouts, don't quote me exactly, how do you feel about the fact that you have been paralyzed from the neck down? How do you feel about that? And he said, well, it's one of the greatest things that happened to me. And I was like, what? How is that possible? He's like, changed my whole perspective on life and how I live in the now, and I'm grateful for everything. And I thought, wow, that's absolutely incredible. Now, of course, I know he's saying that, and underneath it, he probably is still, of course, thinking, oh my God, all the problems with it and so on as well. But overall, because it's changed his life and he's become so grateful for it, he's most likely calm. He's most likely accepted it, the same as most people in wheelchairs have usually come to terms with it over time. Not all, but then they've become aware of lots of things in life that other people don't see. They have now become aware of, and gratitude for many other areas, and see life very differently. And that's very much what had happened there with him. And that is key, with the same as with me with OCD. When I got better, and then I thought of all the years that I'd been stuck, those were the years which were the building bricks that changed my life and adapted and made my life what it is today, because of how I'm now grateful and not looking at life on a sort of shallow surface level way that we tend to do when we haven't had suffering and difficulty and adjusted and adapted our perceptions to it. So that is all key, and that is all gratitude, and that is all to do with calming ourselves down and becoming more rational in general. And that's such a key part of life. So whatever we go through, we want to speak out and talk about problems, but we don't want to overdwell on them where they become all life consuming, because that doesn't help. And we want to feel feelings, and we want to be constructive, to make change in ourselves and adapt and improve our life. I can see that mosquito, another one, going behind me now. I'm not going to be so accepting to that one. And we've got to think of all that stuff very, very rationally, and helping ourselves, not being rational all the time like a robot, but just giving ourselves the best boost so that we have the best chance of success in whichever way we're trying to go in life. And so that's key. And so that we're not focusing on, where's it going to get us if we endlessly complain? Nowhere. Where's it going to get if we endlessly cry? Nowhere. Where's it going to get us if we endlessly cry? Angry? Nowhere. So we're learning to adapt our emotional state to give us the best options for happiness and the life goals that we are after. And that is absolutely key, because if you want a family, if you want a job, if you want any of those things that most humans want, you're going to have to do them by overcoming obstacles. And if you're doing them whilst angry all the time, it's not so easy. If you're doing them whilst crying all the time, it's not so easy. Now, that doesn't mean that you're at fault for crying. Crying's natural. It's going to happen. You're going to have overwhelming times with OCD, and you're going to cry and you're going to get angry, and all these things are going to happen, okay? And you accept that and you be at peace with that. But it's just, there's lots of ideas that you see today that say things like, oh, just let it all out all the time, or talk all about your OCD all the time, and then it becomes complete confession, compulsion, or all versions of those things. You know, I'm sure you've seen many things like that, versions of those things that we often talk about, like the thoughts are thoughts one, like, oh, the main thing to get better from OCD is just leaving a thought there, changing relationship with a thought. It's definitely much harder than that. We know it's much harder than that because we've all been through that and seen it isn't that easy, isn't that simplistic. So things do involve constructive change, adaptation, to improve and make changes. And it's not always comfortable, and it's not always what we want to hear. And that's another key point. Hearing things we don't want to hear. I am open all the time to hearing things I don't want to hear. I'm deliberately looking for that. So In our company, what we do with OCD recovery, the people who work in it, we always say, anything that you want to ask, anything you want to challenge us on, do it, because then we can adapt and make what we do the best way we can do it, right? If we keep adapting and we keep changing and listening, that's when you do that. If you don't listen, you don't make change. So we always say about bringing an idea forward, talking about something, breaking things down, and that way then we improve. And I learned that from Ray Dalio in a great book, Principles, which is a fantastic book. If you're ever looking for a good book on sort of navigating life or navigating business or whatever you're into or whatever your goals are, it's a great book just for life in general. There's a great YouTube video on it, Ray Dalio Principles, a cartoon video that shows that as well, and it's fantastic. And you just learn to navigate life well. You just learn to navigate, which none of us are going to perfect, but you learn to see that it's about learning from mistakes. That's what that's all about. Seeing where, if you've made a mistake, how can you adapt, how you can adjust, and treating every single thing as little mistakes. So, for example, I'm sitting here now, I've just been bitten 3 or 4 or 5 times by a mosquito. If I had put a mosquito repellent on, I wouldn't have got bitten. So I can say, okay, what should I learn? Well, the time of day I'm doing this video now, there's quite a lot of mosquitoes around. If I get a repellent, I'm not going to get bitten so often, right? There's a lesson. What other lessons could I have? I'm holding this camera with my arm. I haven't got a tripod. There is a tripod in the other room, so I could set that up. Then the camera wouldn't wobble so much. That would be another good thing to do. What else could I do? I could record this video a bit earlier in the day where it's brighter and more natural light. I can do that. See, that mosquito just went on my face. I probably got him too late. So you can, all these things we can think and we can adapt to and we can adjust to, okay? And we can look for that in every area of life, in everything. And we're not trying to do it compulsively, but to improve our life. Thinking, what can I change here? What can I do there for the best goals and success in whatever we are trying to choose and adapt to and go for. I think that's enough on that topic of goal setting and the roller coaster journey and navigating the OCD recovery journey. I'm going to be going into the next video on covering more about the acceptance process, as Momin just did a great post on that today, all about acceptance. I'm going to do a video on that, all about acceptance in general in a lot more detail. So that will be next. Guys, great to see you all on here. I'll be back on here in another day or two. We've got a lot of webinars coming up. And one of the next webinars that we've got coming up is going to be all about, we're releasing it tomorrow, I think. It's not tomorrow, but we're releasing the flyer about it, is going to be all on about fitness, health and life structure. So if you're scared of health-related OCD, as well as your life structure, gym, fitness, nutrition, why nutrition can't solve OCD, but about sort of healthier life structure in general, we will be covering all of that. Guys, great to see you all, and I'll see you on the next video. Take it easy, guys.